Hello, everyone. Good morning and happy Friday. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. We are delighted to be back here another Friday morning for the program. Thank you so much again for joining us each Friday morning when we're here to discuss another topic that is both relevant and I would say vital to our life and to our living. Welcome to Morning Life and Leadership Experience. And this is where we engage in discussions about various aspects of life and leadership. And, it is impossible to completely separate our personal lives from our professional lives, no matter how hard we try. We find that they intersect one way or the other. And so that's what we talk about. We talk about life, we talk about leadership. So this morning, we will be talking about those traits and we'll be looking at least 10 traits. If we can get through those 10 traits this morning, then would have accomplished a significant task this morning to talk about those 10 traits of leadership that really makes the leadership experience one of excellence. With me again is my co-host, Dr. Siegfried Howell. Dr. Howell is a master life coach. He is a relationship coach and consultant, and he's also the founder and CEO of MEI Coaching and Consulting and Dr. Siegfried Howell LLC. Thank you so much, Dr. Howell, for always being an able co-host. I think we may be having a little internet challenge this morning because I see it fluffing in and out. But anyway, we are going to keep it going. And as usual, I am yours truly, Dr. Janice Brooks. I am the CEO and founder of SAS Solutions, a coaching and consulting leadership development company registered in the state of Florida. Thank you so much again for joining us. So we are going to get right into it because many times in life we come upon different obstacles. And it appears that our obstacle this morning is the internet, but we are going to be carrying on. Dr. Howell, we are again talking about life and leadership. Thank you so much for those joining us, those who are viewing us on all three medias, Facebook, LinkedIn, and on our YouTube channel.
I see we lost Dr. Brooks for a few seconds there. Just so that you know, our topic for today is on leadership and what are the components of a good leadership program. And so we will be using the letters of the spelling of the word leadership to explain what good leadership looks like. Now, if she still has problems coming on, I will go ahead and get started, but we'll give her a couple more moments to work with her technology issue. So while we're waiting for her to come back in, we're going to talk about those 10 qualities of good leadership. And we use the acronym LEADERSHIP. And we will be breaking each one of those down and explaining exactly what it means when a leader is showing good leadership. I see you back in, Dr. Janice. So go
I am
ahead.
telling you, Dr. Howell, what did I say about the challenges this morning? And thank you so much for carrying on.
Oh, no
Uh,
problem at all.
Absolutely. So we'll be talking about those, and I want you to continue to carry on because we're going to keep going. And
Yes.
what we want to recognize this morning is that the process of growth and personal development, whether it's in life or leadership, it really holds significance um, with the journey rather than the end result. Because sometimes we just keep going for the end, but we don't take time to really savor that journey that we go through. And it's that journey of becoming the individual that we want to be that we get to learn, we get to grow, we get to evolve, we get to transform into the better versions of ourselves while achieving the goal that is very important to us. And so,
Yeah.
Dr. Howell, this morning, I want you to take it away this morning with the first trait that leaders must have to move towards excellence, whether in their personal life or in their lives of leading others. And the first one is lead by example. Lead by example. Talk to us a little bit about how leading by example can really push a leader into excellence in that leadership space.
Well, first of all, just so our listeners know, I will be going very quickly this morning because we have 10 different traits. And Dr. Janice and I, we spoke about this before, and we said that we will go quickly for this particular one. And so for leading by example, we're talking about modeling behavioral practices and making sure that your subordinates or the people in your inner circle know exactly what is expected, what is required, and what is effective in being a good leader. And we have found that when leaders show by example what needs to be done and the practices that will be adhered to by the company, we find that there's a 2 to 3 times higher compliance, and there's no stonewalling, there's no pushback, so to speak. And so you get more productivity done when companies have leadership that lead by example. They're not scared to get their hands dirty or to roll up and get into the trenches with their subordinates.
I totally agree with you, Dr. Howell. And just to add a bit to what you have said, I also believe that when we model the behavior that we want from others, when we lead by example, we not just do what you say, we also build trust, we build respect, we build credibility, and we demonstrate that this is the work ethic, this is integrity, this is the communication, this is how we create a culture of accountability. This is what we want. So when we do that, we allow others to see, and not just to see, they also are able to follow. And this trait is really, really very important because it is an action speak louder than words, a trait that leaders must and should exemplify. When you lead by example, you're saying, my action is speaking louder than my words. And so we move on to the second trait this morning that leaders should exemplify in order to lead with excellence. And the second one, Dr. Howell, is they must empower others. And many a times we believe that I am the big man here, I'm the big woman here, I just lead the way I want to lead. But if you're leading and you're not empowering others to lead, then you are leading yourself into excellence. And so we move on to the third trait that
Oh, your volume went out. Okay, so well, let me continue from where she is. So when leaders empower their subordinates, two things happen. The first thing that happens is that you build better leaders. You build people who know exactly what it is you want and knows exactly what is required of them. So there's no ambiguity. There's no way for them to go wrong because they know what is expected of them. Secondly, a good leader gives up a lot of his power or her power because by empowering others, you're giving up some of that autocratic type leadership trait. And that allows you as a leader to be more productive in the planning process. A lot of leaders, they want to be involved in everything. And when you're involved in everything, it makes you too busy and you can't give detail to those small things that can trip up businesses, that can trip up your legacy, that can trip up your business. So by empowering others, you find that you have higher productivity and you have higher buy-in, and you create more leaders, and you're more effective because you're not spreading yourself out too thin. So the third topic that we will be looking at today, as a leader, must act with integrity. And what does that mean? That means you say what you mean and you mean what you say. You require of yourself the same thing that you require of others. So if you're not willing to put in the time and the energy to better yourself, is it fair for you as a leader to ask your subordinates and the people who you lead to better themselves? And you find that when leaders lead with integrity, there's 67% higher employee trust and scores, and there's 89% higher reported job satisfaction. So when leaders know what they want and they are very transparent with what they want, their goals, their means, and what they're trying to achieve in the company, what happens is that people tend to be more happy with those jobs and tend to be more likely to trust that person and follow them in their leadership. So Dr. Janice still isn't back, so we will move on to number 4, driven to success. A leader must be driven, but not just driven in any direction. They have to be driven in a direction that leads to success. So what does that mean? That means that a leader must know their goals, be able to set proper goals, be able to be resilient to setbacks. Not everything is going to go the way you want, but are you knowledgeable enough to know that, hey, if this does not go the way I want, I can go slightly to the left or go slightly to the right, and we'll still get to our end point. So you must be resilient to setbacks. And last but not least, you have to have a pursuit for innovation. What that means is this: you cannot just say, hey, it's business as usual. It worked last year, so it will work this year. There's certain things that are fundamental to driving a business, but innovation is key. When you look at companies like Blockbuster, who had a monopoly on the market and they faded away, they were not innovative. When you look at companies like Kmart, who had a monopoly on the market, yet still Walmart came and they surpassed them, that should not be the case. When you look at how Zoom came in and outperformed a lot of companies that were in that market already, like Skype, innovation is paramount. And so driven to success means that you're willing to set clear goals, be resilient to setbacks, but also be innovative so that you can weather all of the storms that will come your way. Let's move on to number 5. And when Dr. Janice comes in, we will see if she has anything to add to those particular areas. So let's look at number 5, engages in active listening. Not just listening, but active listening. A lot of employers and a lot of leaders say, hey, I have an open door policy. But when you voice your opinion and you voice your grievance, sometimes there's retaliation, and that's not fair. So active listening means that you listen to what everyone has to say, and then you make an active and a well-informed decision based on the information that you have. And when employees know that you're actively listening, you have a higher team engagement presence, and you also have better problem identification and better problem solving. And last but not least, you have improved cross-functional collaboration when people feel that the leadership is listening to them. So all around, the company can do well when people believe that you, as a leader, will be listening actively to what they're saying before you make decisions that affect them. And number 6, let's look at resilient Leaders must also be resilient. And resilient means, hey, everyone around me might become frantic, but because I know my plan is well defined and I know that my plan is well mapped out, I know that there will be hard times and we will weather the storm. And my job as a leader will be to encourage the people, even though we have a setback. And so, what that does to your subordinates is it helps them to bounce back from failures a lot faster because now they know we're going to fail, but our leader, they are going to weather the storm and they're going to keep us on the course because they have the big picture and they will guide us towards where we need to go. And so it's easier to maintain a team and their performance through crisis periods when they have your trust and when you have their trust and when they know that you're not going to buckle and run to the hills or abandon them when times get hard, when they know they're not going to get fired because things aren't going as planned. So it creates a more adaptive organization when the leadership is resilient. The heads come together and they actively listen and they move forward with resilience. Number six, good leadership shows empathy. What is empathy? Empathy is knowing what it feels like to be in that person's shoes. So, for example, when your best subordinate is not producing, you go to them and you say, hey, Johnny, Susie, what is wrong? Is there something I can help you with? And if they say, well, I'm dealing with this problem at home, I'm dealing with this social problem or this personal problem, can you as a leader show empathy towards them and say, hey, you know what? Take a day or two off, get yourself together, come back. We'll be thinking about you and rooting for you. When you handle that, come back. Let them know that what they're going through is important. And so take the time to deal with that because we know that when you come back, you will be focused on what is important. But right now, you need to be focused on what is important to you. And that's very important. So showing empathy, showing that you have the ability to put the company's needs aside momentarily because you know in the long run, these people go above and beyond the call of duty for you. So you need to go above and beyond the call of duty for them in their time of need. Number 8, good leadership holds themselves accountable. So we already said that a good leader has integrity, but along with integrity is holding yourself accountable. What does that mean? What that means is don't expect from your subordinates what you're not willing to accept from yourself. So holding everyone accountable means that you're going to show up every day and give it 110%, as Dr. Eric Thomas would say. Actually, he normally says give it 110 or 120, 25%. So you have to overproduce. You have to be over accountable to yourself, over accountable to success. And when you do that, the studies show that leaders who are holding themselves accountable create teams with 50+% higher performance, 63% stronger organizational culture scores, which means people within the organization know the culture and they feel strong about their work environment and their work culture. Also, you have better change management outcomes. So when you're trying to change things, when you're trying to be innovative, when you're trying to do something new, people are more likely to get on the bandwagon when they know that you are also holding yourself accountable for the change that is trying to be implemented in the company. And so with that being said, let's move on to number 9. A good leader inspires through vision. Managers look at the small picture. Leaders look at the big picture. And what that means is this: as a leader, you must have a big enough and strong enough vision that people can jump behind. However, you must balance the wonderful dance of having a big macro picture and having a smaller macro picture, because a leader also needs to know how to bring people 10 steps ahead of where they currently are. So you need to have smaller goals that you can lead people towards, but you also have to be mindful of the larger goals that you and every department they're trying to reach towards. And so you inspire through vision, and those visions must have multiple layers: the immediate vision, and the intermediate vision, and the long term vision. So, for example, if you have a new employee, you don't necessarily show them the 10-year vision. You might show them the 10-step ahead vision so that they don't feel overwhelmed and feel like they do not have the ability to do what is required of them. So it inspires through vision, but that vision must come in various layers. And then last but not least, a leader must be able to prioritize team growth. And what does that mean? That means that we need to know what the goals of all of the subordinates are. So if I have Tom, who is in human resources, and he wants to run human resources one day, it may not be in this company. It may be in a parent company, or it may be in a rival company. But am I giving Tom the skills and the ability and the resources needed to feed and nourish his goal for the future? It means that if Patricia has a dream of being a CEO, I am giving her leadership roles, because that feeds and it nourishes her drive for leadership, and it makes her feel like she is growing and developing and her needs are being met. And that's very important, because if your team members do not feel like they have the ability to grow in your organization, then your employee retention is going to go down. And that means that all of the good people, or a majority of your good employees, are going to jump ship, run to the hills, and you're going to be left with subpar employees, and that's not good. And so being a good leader means making sure I know what each person on my team needs in order to feel happy and feel content with their job. Give them the ability to grow and develop and meet some of their personal as well as professional goals and needs, so that they will feel like your company is a good fit for them. If you don't, your retention rates are going to drop. If you don't, then you're going to have a reduced succession planning outcome, which means if you go to retire, you expect people to take your job and take your position. When you leave the company, you expect good, able employees to take your role. But if you don't have proper goals and proper development strategies put in place, then you're left with gaps in the organization that may or may not cause the company to decline in productivity. And last but not least, when good leaders prioritize team growth, you have increased organizational capability scores, which means that people believe that they are able to do the job that is required of them. And finally, it builds a leadership pipeline, like I said earlier, which allows you to know that when you retire, when you move on from that particular position, there are people that are willing and able to take that job. So, what does all of that mean for leadership? That acronym allows us to understand that there are things that are required of leaders that may not be required of other individuals. Because as a leader, you need to have that long term goal. Because you need to have that long term goal and long term vision, you need to make sure that you have integrity. You need to make sure that you remain accountable. You need to make sure that you provide avenues for growth. You need to make sure that you show empathy when empathy is needed. You need to make sure that you have resilience, because resilience is the ability to make it through those difficult times. You need to make sure that you're willing to actively listen to your subordinates, because that is the one and only way you can make sure that you make decisions that will positively affect everyone that is your subordinate. And last but not least, you need to make sure that you're driven by success and you have a goal and a vision that is aligned with your personal beliefs as well as the company's personal beliefs. Now, I see that Dr. Janice has not made it back on as yet, but we have covered all of those smaller areas that lead up to the word leadership. Thank you for listening today, and thank you for being part of this. For those who are listening after the initial broadcast, please text us and put the hashtag repeat or hashtag watching after it was created. Ask questions. If there are topics and areas that you want us to focus on, go ahead and ask those questions, and we will create the program and the podcast and the talk that you need, that is specific for your company, that is specific for what you are looking for within your organization. Don't forget to like, to share, and subscribe. Thank you very much for being part of this program today. Have a good day.